right, can you hear me? All right, so Melanie and Sherry, you get to come up here. So thanks, Tom, for the introduction. Just to give you a little background, we started Heart to Heart USA in 2017. I won't go through this slide. Oh, they stay down there. So we started Heart to Heart USA after doing a trip over to Kenya. And so 2017 is when it all began for Melanie and I and our staff. So this is a picture of Missionary Mary. She started Heart to Heart Children's Center over in Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, in 2006. Then the dot right there in Kenya, that's where Nairobi is. So for those that don't know where Kenya is, because I probably didn't know in the beginning. So the mission trip that we took, it was from 27 April to 8 May. It was the flight, the one-way flight each day, each direction was 30 hours, about 30 hours. It was about 4 hours shorter going than coming back, so that was kind of interesting. We went from Raleigh to Paris to Nairobi. So we ended up taking, was it 8 bags with us? 8 extra bags full of supplies, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So I kind of went in a chronological order on this presentation. So this is Karangwange. We can't pronounce that word. The Lutheran Church, it's a feeding program, and they had about 75 children that were lined up for food. And this is when the children were out on their break from school. So these kids, this is probably the only meal that they got that day. So they lined up, they washed their hands, they said prayers, and then they got their food. And Sherry, just like she was doing, she was just jumping in there and helping out left and right. So I was like, where's Sherry? And I went over to the front of the line, and she was handing out the dishes. So you'll see the food. You know, we're spoiled here in America, but they're getting a little bit of rice and probably about 3 tablespoons of beans, and that's their meal. That's the meal that they got for the day. And they were lined up. How can you not love that picture? That is just adorable. And they're happy. You can see the joy in their eyes. So these kids are happy, and they don't have anything. They're just they're just joyful. The first Sunday we were there, we went to a church in the slum area, and this church was a church plant. So they had a church on one side of the slum, and they were having problems with people transporting to the other side of the slum. So they did a church plant. So the church was packed. They had a guest speaker from Tanzania that came in. He was preaching, and they had like 5 choirs that were singing, and they were really singing. So it was wonderful. But that was a church plant, and they're doing great. So Lord is working in the slums. This gentleman here, to save space, me and Melanie didn't take our own Bibles with us because there wasn't enough space in the bags. So we used a couple of the Bibles that were donated to go to church on that first day. And I noticed this guy, he didn't have a Bible. So I took my Bible and handed it to him. And immediately, he took it out, and he's reading it. So it is, what a blessing. So you got something to add to that? there's a big need there for Bibles. The last trip we went on, we were able to donate a bunch of Bibles, but this time our focus was more on the school supplies, but Bibles are in there as well. It was neat. And they made us feel so welcome everywhere we went. We didn't feel in jeopardy, in harm's way or anything. We had a little entourage that kept us protected. So that was really good. So the next stop that we did in the afternoon was Karama Elementary School. And I sent a few pictures out to our small group. They may have seen a couple of these pictures. But this is one of the good classrooms. And one of the challenges that they have with the school system right now is they changed the way that they're doing the curriculum. So they had to set up the 7th and 8th graders, the junior high, and it's a totally different curriculum, totally different infrastructures needed, different textbooks and all that other stuff. So they just don't have the infrastructure. So that's one of the reasons that we're looking at trying to raise money for desks. So this desk here, you can see that the top rung is missing on the desk, but many of these desks don't have the bottom seat portion either. So the kids are getting to school like at 6:30 in the morning, and they're leaving at 5 in the afternoon, and they're sitting on a 1x6, basically, for that entire time. They're sitting on either the metal slats, or they're finding something, scrap piece of wood to sit on, which is it's horrible. This is a picture of their cafeteria. When we think of sanitation and all the other stuff that takes place, they're basically cooking on this cauldron, and they're cooking, the rice and beans to hand out to the children for their feeding program for school lunch. It's like, what the heck is this? This is where some vandals came and broke out the windows. I got my hand stuck through the window to illustrate that, there's no glass pane in there. So whenever it's cold or rainy or whatever, the elements are getting into the classroom. So those children are sitting there in the elements while they're trying to study. So there are several windows. I would say probably a dozen or so windows that need to be replaced at that school. Here's a picture of one of the worst shaped classrooms. They're moving desks around a little bit due to doing some maintenance in the classroom. But you can see like this one desk doesn't have a seat on it. They got other ones that don't have slats, for them to sit against. But this is the infrastructure that we want to help out with those kids over there. The schools are a Christian school, so the curriculum does teach, they got a great Bible study that they teach each and every child. So it doesn't matter if they're Hindu or they're Muslim, they're getting the Bible taught to them. And it's great. So, and it's testable, so that makes it even better. So we tried to visit, I think it was 3 or 4 days that we tried to visit families. We had 3 family visits on those particular days. And we would stop and we would get them supplies. So the guy with the pack on his back there, that was some rice, some flour, and then some bottled milk. Not bottled, packaged milk, so it didn't need to be refrigerated. But we would visit the family, and then we'd give them a little gift while we're there. So that's kind of walking through the slums. This is typical. This is going between the houses. You would have a main road that would go down the slum, and then as you go into the houses, this is typical of what it looks like. So there's Sherry going up the steps, and we're in our little formation going through the passageways. And the passageway is probably about 4 feet wide, and it's just bad. This is Felix, right? So this is Felix. This is actually the little boy that Sherry supports. So she got to meet him and hug on him. So that's good. So you want to talk about Felix a little bit?
Okay. Well, Felix, he is 8 years old, but he had never been sponsored, so he wasn't in school. So right now, he's in pre-kindergarten. They were able to start him in pre-kindergarten, thankfully.
So, and Felix, we got to see him a couple times while we were there, so that's great. And Sherry got to love on him, and we got to talk to his mom. That was great. This is another picture of us going through the slums. So you're just trying to go through the muddy paths. This family here, this I had a struggle with. This was what we call it the cave family, because they live in basically a cave. So the little girl is Helen. That's one of the kids that gets supported is Helen. And we went through this dark corridor. I'm claustrophobic, so I got about halfway. I said, hey, I got to stop. But those two just, they went on. They went into this room. Now, that room, if I spread my arms out like this, it would almost touch the walls on both sides. So that was just, it just so small. We all crammed in there, and we got to talk with them. But they had one light bulb because they didn't have any windows. It was right on the side of the river, and whenever the river would rise, it would flood the apartment. Melanie's got her hand in the air.
Because I want to say something about this family. Rent typically is $30 to $40 a month. Their rent is $25 because it was so small. When you look at this picture, you can't see the walls on either side of that, but it's probably 2 feet on the side of the little girl in the pink, and about another 2 feet, maybe 3 feet with the young lady in the white sweater. It was unbelievably small.
Yeah, it is.
It's where they sleep. Yes.
So that was a mother and her 3 children sleep there. That's their whole house. That's their kitchen, their living room, their bedroom. That's everything.
And that's the bed that they're sitting on. So they have a twin bed, and that's where the adult sleeps. And then where we were sitting was a little couch, and then at night they put down a mat for the children to sleep on.
So, but I did make it in there eventually. I turned around and I did make it. So Melanie and Sherry's like, oh, you finally made it. I'm like, yeah. So, but I did make it. And I'm glad I did. And this is the hallway. This is from the apartment going out to the light, I guess. But and that was with a flash attachment on our camera. So it was scary for me. This is the slums. This is like a main road in the slums. We're walking around to the different families that day. This is, you may hear me call him Jimbo. That's his last name, but it's Thomas Jimbo. He's one of our coordinators, and he does just a fantastic job in getting all the administrative stuff together for us, for Heart to Heart Orphans USA. So this is another family. This one here is Sharon. Sharon is up there in the yellow. She is one of the kids that we support. Do you remember what grade she's in? So she's in grade 8. And then the other kids just jumped on us and wanted some attention. So we were able to play with the kids and talk with them and talk to their mother. I don't see the mother in the picture here, but we were able to talk to the family and find out what their circumstances are. And she was a teacher, so she's a school teacher, and so she's got a job. Her and her husband are school teachers, and so they are doing okay, but they're still living in the slums. But you can see from this picture, they take really good care of their stuff. right? And that was a common theme throughout the visits that we had. They do take really good care of the things that they have. All right, so this is coming down out of the apartment there. So that's was a little treacherous because not all of the stair treads were in accordance with, you know, yeah. So the next thing, we talked about Esther before. Esther is one of the ladies that we supported with microfinance. So we went and visited her shop to see how she's doing, and she's doing very well. So she's able to support her son going to school. She's able to, you know, support part of her family. She lives with her mom and dad, and we got to meet them as well. But so we got to see her in action there, doing a lady's hair, and then in order to provide a little bit of support to her, Melanie had her fingernails done, to just give her a little bit of support and just have a little fun and get to talk to her a little bit. And she is just, Esther is extremely happy. She is in such a better place than she was before. She still has challenges with living in the slums, but she had 2 or 3 people that came in when we were sitting there visiting that were customers, so that's good. Microfinance, when we, if there's a need, there's people that want to start a business. We do we get with Thomas or Esther, our Esther, for our coordinators, and we do a business plan, and it basically gives them a jump start in order to start a business. So they would, like, one of the ladies wants to do a grain store, right, a market. So it's like rice and beans and flours and that type of stuff to feed the people in the slums. So it's microfinance is just to get them a kickstart in order to get their business done. So we do a business plan, so we evaluate that by the board to find out if it's a good, viable business plan. The success rate of the microfinance is around 40 to 50%. So it's very, very important that we do a good study to make sure that it's something that can be successful, a location that's going to be successful. So that is kind of what we do for microfinance. So we want to try to increase that rate, the success rate, as much as possible. Did that answer your question? Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to, one of the things that we want to do, we have, right now on our website, we have a children's page. We want to start microfinance profiles to where people can go in if they want to sponsor a specific microfinance. The other thing, too, is partnering with, not everybody can do a business. They're just not, they don't have the mindset. But mentoring those that can, that have that capability. Another thing, too, is changing the mindset of day to day and go more for growth and expansion, so that those people that don't, like we sponsor Clinton. Clinton will have a challenge. And so one of the things we want to do is try to get him to be hired by one of those microfinances so that he will have some sort of income. But in the whole process of this, through the ups and downs of establishing the business, strengthening their relationship with Jesus, with the fact that they can't do anything without him. And the other thing, too, is the tithing, to go back on the tithing out of their, out of the income that they do make, because it's so, and trusting in him that he will provide, because it's so, it's such a struggle that it's easy to have a tendency that I want to keep my tithe so I can make it. We do that, so you can imagine how challenging it is for them.
All right, so this is the outside of the beauty shop there. This is her family. This is Esther's family. Well, not me and Melanie. We're not family. That's Esther's family. Another family that we visited these ones, I want to talk about these. So it's Talia and Warren. So Warren's the older brother. Talia is 2 years old, and Warren is 5. This is heartbreaking. We went to visit them, and the father wasn't there. And we're like, what the heck is going on here? These two kids are here alone. So they're in a 10 by 10 room alone. And we're like, where's the father? Well, he's working. Well, when's he coming back? Well, he'll be back at sundown at 6 o'clock or at 7 o'clock when he gets done selling the corn on the side of the road. So we're like, this is not good. So we provided some food. We left it with one of the neighbors to make sure that they got the food. And but these children are there in the morning, from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 or 7 at night, alone. You know, there's no bathroom. You know, they're having to use the facility. I don't mean to be crude, but a bucket. And there's no food. You know, they're getting like a snack or something that's left by the father. But they're there alone, all day long. So a couple days later, you know, we were talking. We're like, we got to do something about this. So we met with the father on Sunday. I mean, the father is a great guy. He's well educated. He was a loan officer, and he lost his job during COVID. And so now he's selling corn on the side of the road. But he went to one of the best schools in Kenya. He was a loan officer, and he's just struggling. We gave him the option to put his kids in the children's center, the orphanage, or try to get some daycare for the kids so that when he goes to work, he can drop them off at daycare, and then when he comes back from work, he can pick them up. And that's what we did. So heart to heart, we decided right then that we would support those kids for 2 months. So this is an emergency case. They need support for these two kids. These two kids are sitting there all alone all day, or they were. But they're taken care of for 2 months, so about a month and a half now since we've been back. But look at that. That's just so sad. And there they are.
When we went into the home, Thomas that was with us, he was our interpreter. So he asked the children how old they were, and it was just really sad because that little 5-year-old boy said, I don't know. He didn't know how old he was. So that was one of the saddest cases. But I was so thankful because on Sunday before we flew back, that's when we were able to set up the daycare and all for them. So I was very thankful for that.
Yeah, and the dad's name's Peter, so be praying for them. There's our 2 wet ladies there. It rained just about every day, I think, but they were happy. I can't say enough about Sherry. She is like a go-getter. She didn't complain one time, and there was many opportunities that we could have complained, but she was great, and Melanie as well. So we're hopping ditches and doing all kinds of stuff. So this is gracious. We've been supporting her for a while. She's got some medical issues. I probably talked about her last year, and she's making progress, but she still has some medical issues. We're trying to get her to see a specialist, a woman doctor, for some of the issues that she has. And the other thing I want to explain, whenever we do the visits with the family, we always prayed with them. And we always asked them, do you have a Bible? And there's one lady that she showed her Bible, and I've never seen a Bible that's so tattered, but she was using it every day. And but all the families, we made sure that they had Bibles, and so that was one of the things that we emphasized. But we prayed with them, and it is good. God is great. And this is Angeline. This is one of the the children, that Melanie had a real good friend in Iwakuni, Japan, and she's actually sponsoring this young lady, so she's doing good. Oop, I went past. This is Clinton. Clinton's 18 years old now. He's malnourished. He's got some challenges. Like Melanie said, he's probably never going to be fully functional. He's just he's got some mental challenges, but he is so sweet. I thought that was a great picture. Prince of Peace, we did another food drive or handing out food, and we Tom, you love this. We had a bright idea, so to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, make an American food for them. And so we gave them peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, some juice, some cookies, and a sucker. And it was, we probably needed to do a little more logistics on that, but it worked out. So at the assembly there, we were expecting about 150, and there turned out to be like 180. So it showed up, so that was part of our logistics challenge. But they lined up, and they prayed, and then we ate. And they lined up. And then there's a little kid with all his stuff. One of the logistics things is how they carry all this stuff. They had problems carrying all this stuff and getting the juice and everything. So it was pretty comical. So the 8 suitcases worth of supplies, I am blown away with what Harvest did. So the night before we went to the school, we tried to open up all the suitcases and categorize it and all the other stuff. So this is, they lined up, we handed the stuff out, and they had the different supplies, soccer balls, ping pong paddles, socks, underwear. It was just, it was amazing. So I did a little list here. This is what, I'd say Harvest donated probably 90%, 95% of all of this stuff. 205 pencil erasers, 247 pair of underwear, 300 toothbrushes, about 150 socks. The soccer balls and soccer cones was an ask that they had the last trip that we took. So this is amazing. This is you guys. So thank you. Then one of the next things that we did was Melanie did a support a Bible study. It was they were stuffed in this little room. So I would say that there's about 25 people in there, and she did a Bible study that day for the support group. We weren't sure if it was just going to be women or if it was going to be men, but she did a Bible study there, and she did a wonderful job. Then we went on a safari. So I'm going to click through these really fast because it's just pictures, right? So it was a safari. So we wanted to go to it in order, if somebody goes on the next trip, that we would be able to say, hey, this is the experience. But I'm going to click through these really fast. So we saw our lions. We saw a cheetah that is chewing on an impala. This picture here, you can't tell it very good, but there's 3 lions munching on a water buffalo back there in the woods. These 2 cheetahs, we actually saw a chase that they chased an impala, and this is hysterical because we're in a Land Rover where you can stand up and look out, and I see the cheetah, and he's crouching, he's on the prow, and I'm like, wow, this is cool. I said, watch it. I got a video of it, but and so we're standing there, and Melanie's like, run to the impala. And Sherry's, get it. I would have never thought that. I was just like, that was so funny. I laughed so hard. After the safari, we went to see the Maasai. I talked about the Maasai tribe before. But Melanie did a Bible study for the women, and I did and it is translated into their language because they have a tribal language, so they were able to get the word in their language. So there's a translator. And then I had, for the men, the men and the women in the Maasai tribe, they never intermingle. So the men are out doing their thing, the women are doing their thing, and the only time that they're together is at night. So they never socialize with each other. So Tom and Denny sitting there together, that wouldn't happen in that tribe. It was pretty interesting. But that's their culture. And we talked about some of their culture with the females getting married off early and, you know, basically getting married for, well, I'll explain it if you grab me one-on-one. So here's, we're handing out some flour to the ladies. So we bought a whole bunch of flour. These are some of the children these are just 3 of the about, we support 55, I think it is. It's about that, children. But these are 3 of the children that are supported by different folks. So there's about 100 children that are on the list that need support as well. So, but these are 3. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that one? Okay. So what's on the horizon? So our rummage sale. Tom already mentioned it. It's going to be at the parking lot on 15 July. Why? So we want to raise funds for immediate needs for emergency sponsorships. So I talked about the 2 children that we're able to support for 2 months, but that's going to run out. So we really, that's my number 1 priority when we have a meeting this evening, and we'll be bringing that to the board. That's the number 1, my number 1 priority. So that's it's really important. Also, the school furniture, the desk. At that one school, they needed 44 desks, and the desk cost, is it $30 or $35? Okay, so the desk costs $30 a piece. It takes about 2 weeks for them to get made, so they're made there in Kenya, so they weld them together and all that. But that was for the one school. There's another school that needs similar stuff. So like I said, it's about $13,000. It was 17. What was the shilling? Yeah, the Kenyan shillings. If you take about 30% off, that's what the exchange rate is. It used to be 1-to-1, where you could take 2 decimal places off and do the math. Now there's a 30% exchange rate difference. But so it's about $13,000 for the different things that they need facility-wise, whether it's, you know, panes of glass, whether it's faucets, whether it's, you know, cooking utensils. So those are some of the challenges that they have. Computer lab, I've talked a lot with Eric Winship on this. With the new curriculum, the government says that they have to have a computer lab in order to be certified. We were able to take 3 laptops, and thank you for those 3 laptops. 2 of them were donated from Harvest, 1 was donated from somebody else. So we were able to get them laptops and get them up and operational, at least to put a check in the box. But they need 15 computers to do a computer lab. And with the computer lab, since it's in the slums, they need to make sure that that area is secure as well. So they need to put bars on the windows, and so people can't break in and steal their computers. So there's many challenges to that. And then wanted to talk about we got a Facebook site that Eric, our son, helps operate. And then we have our website for Heart to Heart Orphans. There's some brochures out in the entranceway if you where you pick up your bulletins. There's usually a couple pamphlets out there if you want to pick up a pamphlet, or you can grab us and we can talk about this a little bit more. But that is my presentation. I appreciate Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned Esther and Thomas. Those are our coordinators that we Heart to Heart uses over there in Kenya, and they do exactly what you said. So the family will come to the office, the Heart to Heart Orphan Center office, and ask for support. They'll plead their case, basically, say, hey, we need X, Y, and Z. We need our child to go to school. And then they'll do a survey of what they actually need. And then once the sponsor is provided, we will, Heart to Heart USA, we will send the money over to the Orphan Center over there. They will coordinate with the individuals. They will make sure that they get the school uniform. They get their, they have shoes, they have a backpack, all the things that they need in order to go to school. And then they help them get enrolled into school. So they hand walk them through the process to get them through the school. One of the things that we're trying to do a better job on, and we're trying to do a better job, so I'm not going to say that we're 100%, but we're with the coordinators, we're trying to get a communication back and forth from the sponsors. So we got a lot of the sponsorship letters, handwritten letters from the kids. We didn't get all of them, but we got quite a few, and pictures from the kids, so we can give that to the sponsors, and then the sponsors can get a relationship going back and forth with the kids. So when we talk to the children, every one of them, they ask for what, Sherry? A backpack and shoes and socks, right? So that was the big ask that those kids, they weren't asking for, an electronic game. They weren't asking for a cell phone. They're asking for the very basic stuff. But our hope is with the relationship going back and forth, and there's a couple families that already are working to provide, socks or something else that the children need. There's one gentleman that supports, was it 4 kids? He supports 4 kids, and he's already doing the coordination back and forth. He's sending a little bit of extra money to Heart to Heart USA, and we're able to get that money over there to the coordinators so that they can get a specific need for those children. So, does that answer your question?
I do want to answer, also too, what happens if they're able to, because some of the kids you will see will be in uniforms, and you're like, well, how are they going to school? How am I sending them to school if they're already going to school? So what happens is, if they're able to squeeze those children in and come up with uniforms, if it's a dire case, then they will send those children to school. And what happens when that child picks up a sponsor, it helps alleviate the stress on the organization, as far as like they can buy food. They sent another request for more food. They've got more people that are coming and asking for food and things like that. And so that's where, because I was under the same thing. How are they going to school how are they needing a sponsor if they're already going to school? So when they get, if they have the extra, they will send as many children as they can.
And they being the Heart to Heart Orphan Center, because they have some corporate sponsors from Norway that they're able to get some additional funds that are above and beyond what we support. So does that help? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Danny? What? It's $50. That covers their tuition, covers their uniform, it covers the feeding program, and it covers it's a basic medical program for their family, which is $5, which is they can go to the doctor's office and get diagnosed. It doesn't cover the medicine, but it gives a diagnosis. Does it? Okay, thank you. So so that's what the $50 covers a month. Yeah, it's $50 a month. So, and they're, the new program that I talked about, the middle school and high school, that requires that it's a boarding school. So they require like a bin and some bedding and stuff like that. So there's an extra cost. We were struggling with how do we actually do that, the extra cost. And we figured out it's a one-time cost going to the, kind of like going back to school, you buy the stuff that the teachers need going back to school, similar to that type of stuff. But it's like, how much is it? $400 to get them. But a lot of that stuff is can stay for the 6 years, like the bin and stuff like that. Any other questions? All right. Ken, would you pray for us, sir? Thank you so much. Appreciate it.